my name is Max Dargan. I will be introducing Mr. Payesh Patel and then Mr. Luvuyo Rani. First with Mr. Patel. He has trained his focus on maintaining and growing PL Studios Inc.'s reputation, as a constant innovator and strong leader. The leadership activities that Payesh takes part in outside of work has been recognized by a number of awards. He has been awarded the Oklahoma State University Rising Star Award, Main Street Premier Partner Award, Oklahoma Trio Achiever of the Year, NISOD Distinguished Faculty Award, and Oklahoma State Leadership Legacy. A tenured university professor, Patel has authored 9 college textbooks and has advised on over 12 additional books. He has also authored over 20 interactive learning tools that are distributed worldwide. Payesh also serves on the Oklahoma Technology Council Advisory Board for the Oklahoma State Chamber, Francis Tuttle Advisory Committee member for the New Media Program, and assisted in curriculum development for the State Career Tech Office to be distributed nationally. Patel holds a Bachelor's of Science degree in elementary education and a Master's of Science in adult education with an emphasis on e-learning. He is also a graduate of the CEO College, Soft Image Instructor, and Maya Certified. Mr. Patel's current venture, PL Studios, provides students, professionals, universities, production companies, and many other organizations with a full-featured educational platform, including the largest online computer graphics training library of over 13,000 interactive videos for over 30 2D and 3D software applications. With that, I ask that you all please help me in welcoming Mr. Payesh Patel. Secondly, Mr. Luvuyo Rani with Cellulo, correct? Technologies. Mr. Rani began selling computers out of his car after leaving his full-time job as a teacher. Due to his connections with other teachers and the education system, he was aware of the market and the fact that the education department was actively promoting the use of computers in the school system. He was also aware of the fact that the majority of teachers were not computer literate, which led him to start his own IT venture to supply schools with computers. Mr. Rani noticed that although teachers were buying computers, they were not actively using them to their advantage because they were not computer literate. Therefore, he began offering basic computer training. In an effort to market his growing company, like Dr. Morris just mentioned, Mr. Rani approached a local radio station and offered to help them with their computers in exchange for an allotted period of airtime for advertising, which has made a noticeable difference in his company. Today, with locations throughout the Western Cape, Cellulo offers a number of computer and IT resources, such as the supply and maintenance of computers, an internet cafe, a training facility, and business advisory service. With that, please help me welcoming Mr. Rani.
Okay, my name is Nicole Novak, and I'm going to be introducing Paul Sorrentino and Russ Tubner. Okay, I'll start with Russ. Russ Tubner is a seasoned software industrial entrepreneur with over 30 years of experience in integrating emerging technologies and software product development within large organizations. Since many large organizations rely heavily on IBM mainframes and application, he has focused much of his creative energy on solving the difficult problems associated with the integration of these legacy systems with technologies that have emerged or evolved more recently. He is recognized as a pioneer in the integration of IBM mainframes and applications with Unix systems, TCP networks, transmission networks, and the internet. As the standards around the internet and e-commerce matured during the late 90s, he quickly recognized the importance of the XML as a data delivery tool and that could enable mainframe applications to communicate with other XML-enabled applications. This led to the invention of HostBridge, a solution that runs on IBM system mainframes and enables a broad cast of applications to communicate with XML. He founded his company in 1983. Over 15 years, him and his associates developed more product lines with customers in 35 countries. Him and his associates also named to Incorporation Magazine's list of the 500 fastest growing privately held companies in America for 3 consecutive years. In 1997, he spun off the ESP product group into a separate company and moved the company to Denver, Colorado. In 1997, they merged with French-based Esker to form Esker Incorporation. He served as an executive of Esker from 1997 to 2000. Tubner and one of his longtime associates founded Hostbridge in 2000. In 1992, Stillwater Chamber of Commerce recognized him as a Citizen of the Year. In 1993, he received the Outstanding Young Oklahoman. In 1997, Oklahoma State University named Russ as a recipient of the Distinguished Alumni Award. In 1999, Tubner was inducted into the OSU College of Business Hall of Fame, which was the highest honor the college could bestow upon one of its graduates. Currently, he serves as the board member of Southwest Bancorp and OSU Center of Innovation and Economic Development. Please help me in welcoming Russ Tubner. Now I'm going to introduce Paul Sorrentino. Paul Sorrentino and his partners, known as the Bagel Boys in Stillwater. The term is struck from the time 3 Oklahoma State students and very close friends started a New York bagel shop in Stillwater. They are now into the 10th year of operating that shop and have added 11 more companies-owned shops. They have also franchised 18 others in 10 states, from Portland, Oregon to Columbia, South Carolina. The 3 partners have maintained really close friends throughout. Their friendship and ability to work well together using their strengths of each was credited by one of his partners for their successful operations. They have requests that come in daily to buy franchise, although franchise buyers are very closely schemed and scrutinized before being approved. They received the U.S. Small Business Administration National Entrepreneurial Success Award in 1995 and were hosted in Washington, D.C. during Small Business Week for President Bill Clinton and SBA Administrator Philip Latter. Then they were honored in a visit to Oklahoma Legislature and to the government, Frank Keening, and at Metro Tech Conference Center. The growth of New York Bagel Shop has been so fast this year that on any given day it is difficult for the partners to quickly answer how many shops exist. Please help me in welcoming Paul Sorrentino.
Those are the longest friggin' bios. Yeah, so let's take a minute, if we could, and ask each of you if you would share your story, a synopsis of your business, and maybe how this topic of the night we've rubbed up against that. Should we start with you, Peter? You
bet. I started my business in what used to be Wilham, which is no longer on campus anymore. $54 is what I started with my business with. And today I help people make movies and games. So that's everybody from Pixar, Disney, Industrial Light and Magic to Apple, MTV. So we have a global footprint across the globe and literally started with $54 and wouldn't take no for an answer. So I always say, if I can do it, and I don't have a background in business, so if I can figure it out, then really anybody can figure it out. We have 23 full-time employees in Oklahoma City. We have an office outside of Moscow in Russia. We also have an office in Ohio, and make frequent trips out to LA because that's where the majority of our customers are. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so movie business in Oklahoma. Our next guest gets the prize for traveling the furthest to Dilemmas and Debates. Luvulio, as you heard in his bio, is an amazing entrepreneur who's created successful computer training and an internet cafe and computer equipment sales in the poverty-stricken townships of South Africa. So, Luvuyo, you want to tell us a little bit about your company?
Thank you. The company started in 2004 whilst I was a teacher, and then seeing part of my colleagues that they could not use computers, and the government was introducing outcome-based education, which means that it's more around skill-based, so they have to use computers as part of their class. So when I resigned, I didn't have kind of one idea how to start a business. I never even see someone that have done even business before. So it was a thing that I want to sell the refurbished computers to teachers, so that teachers can use as part of the tool. And what I've realized that it's a kind of a community which it's difficult to do anything. I mean, even to start a business. Even when I'm starting the business, no one was believing me that I could do this business. They were saying that you are not right. You can't do business. You need to go and teach. Because where you belong, become a teacher. And I just see the power of community, where people come together and buy each other a computer, which is, they call it stockfell or savings. So they buy each other a computer. So that works for me in terms of starting, because I started with nothing, but just like use what is working in terms of trust, commitment, and people working together and buy each other. They will pay 400. Within 6 months, all of them have computers, and that allows me to have kind of a cash flow that for computer. But after it was kind of in the beginning a survivalist thing where I take computers and buy it. With time, I could realize that they were buying these computers. They become ornaments. They can't use them. They're not skilled enough to use them. So the opportunity to trade. So I couldn't have space to train it, and I realized that then we have first internet cafe in the township. And then on the internet cafe, I didn't have money to start internet cafe. So I went to supplier where we buy computers and ask, can you rent us computers? So we pay every month as a rent. He give us 10 computers with a stock, and we pay rental. First month we could not even pay for 3 months until people came in and used computers. And after we put it in the internet cafe, people were not coming in also. And we said, no, we need to go to speak with the radio station where we have a better deal. We gave them the computers, they give us a slot, we support them with their kind of IT. In return, we invited people to come in numbers. They come and use the businesses, and it grows from there, and then have a training. Now it's kind of having 18 centers around the Eastern Cape, and we're expanding next month to Eastern Cape. We employed about 65 people. We attracted so much attention through Microsoft, Vodacom, MWeb, which is big company, the government, to partner with us and make sure that we bring technology closer to the community which were previously disadvantaged. That's it.
Thank you. So I hope you all understood the story I just told you in terms of getting started. He gets this circle of, how many initially, the Stockville?
6.
6 people. They each pay so much a month, and until he has enough money to buy one of them a computer, and they each keep paying, and then the second one gets a computer, and then the third one gets a computer, till all 6 of them have computers, so they're all paying collectively to buy the ring of computers, and Luvuyo's got a cash flow all the while. So it's a very inventive sort of scheme. Next up, Russ.
Should I do this, or do those slides, or run through that, or is this not the right time?
It's fine.
I just wondered.
Well, whenever I learned this last year, when I'm in the presence of Paul Sorrentino, I know I'm not going to be the most verbally expressive guy in the room. So
It's early in the night, Rose.
I know. So what I choose to do is resort to pictures instead, because I know Paul is gonna outwork me. So I live in this really esoteric world of bits, and so I always try to figure out how to tell my stories using some other way. So bear with me. I just want to give you a little bit of a brief history. First of all, I just want to say thank you to Mike for inviting me. I love this topic because if there are 2 words that really describe my journey as being an entrepreneur, it is the words dilemma and guerrilla. I also like even just the meaning of the word dilemma. And if you just look up a definition, it says, there are these concepts about being on the horns of a dilemma. And I think if you just envision yourself as sitting on one of those horns, you kind of have that little sphincter moment. And that's exactly what this is all about. If there's a little pucker factor as you listen to us, that's the dilemma. That's the right set of hormones or whatever's kicking in.
Can you close that little box?
Absolutely. That little sphincter box. There you go. So, like you, I really hoped that my entrepreneurial experience starting out would be, insightful. That'd be a great word. That it'd be tremendously visionary. That I'd be able to analyze things to the nth degree and really plumb great meaning. And then I'd be able to create something from nothing. I mean, it's the creative process that I enjoy and that drives me. Also, all of us we hope that we can conquer new lands, new territory, whether it's conceptually or in our business. I certainly wanted that. But somewhere along the way, I realized that my journey was going to be a little bit different. Maybe yours will prove that too. This seemed to be more my business model early on, where I just felt stretched beyond belief. And I was always just laboring. Now, I think this image has great meaning for me because the guy is towing a mouse, right, as his ball and chain. And that really tends to describe my life for the last 30 years. But beyond that, we just begin to live life where we're literally clutching to time, where we realize it's just slipping out of our hands or we are slipping away from it. And literally, it's a mind-blowing experience. And I don't mean that in the sense that it's an amazing thing, like, wow. Mine was more, you come to those points in time, at least I did, where I wasn't sure if my mental health or my mental fitness was good enough for the ride. But that's really the nature of the job. And an early mentor helped me understand that my job was very simple. It was to walk on a tightrope over shark-infested waters, come up with some magical value proposition, and unlock great value without getting hung out to dry. Very simple. Didn't take rocket scientists. So that's what being a guerrilla is all about. So I'd like to tell you my specific story, which is probably my favorite guerrilla story. I mean, to tell you that, I have to say that I'm something like a puzzle solver or a civil engineer in the software industry, and that is that I build bridges. It's just I don't use concrete or rebar. I use things that look like this, and it's very esoteric. And so I know at the end of the day that I've done a good job if I take that as the raw materials and make those people wandering around in the midst of them happy. Also, if I can create some sort of value proposition, and that's me in the middle, the little green guy, trying to guide a large organization into interconnecting large parts of their infrastructure together in order to communicate and make great value, then I know that I've had a good day. Now, before you ever owned an iPhone, believe it or not, there really were computers that filled rooms. And this is a picture of a large-scale IBM mainframe, and one of these happened, well, still exists actually in the basement of the Math Sciences building, but one certainly existed down there where I happened to be an employee in approximately 1980. So I was a student here from starting in 74 to 78, and I needed a part-time job to get my way through school. And so I started working at the computer center. And I was one of these little, except I didn't dress in a miniskirt or have a bouffant hairdo, but I was one of the little plebes, one of the geeks in the back room. In fact, there was no one at the computer center that looked like that. And there was no one who wore a tie. But that was the world that I lived in. And by the way, this still exists, right? They don't look like this, right? The density factor is amazingly different. But large-scale, world-class, what we call System Z IBM mainframe computers balanced your checkbook today. They processed over 10 billion transactions on behalf of consumers. And one of my customers alone on a military payday handles about 20 million transactions through our software, just doing deposits. So I mean, to understand the scale of those things is pretty amazing. But also back in that era, there was another upstart company called Digital Equipment Corporation. How many of you have ever heard of Digital Equipment Corporation? Yes, someone has heard. I knew Ramesh had, because I knew Ramesh back then. And so we bought one of these at OSU, and it was my job as the dutiful geek who hooked things up to figure out how to make this thing talk to that thing. And it was really just about that simple. Now, I worked on the first floor of the Math Sciences building, and I had one of these things sitting on my desk, and all the money in my budget had to buy things like this to sit on Ramesh's desk or sit on, clusters around the campus. And so I didn't have enough money in my budget to buy one of those for my desk. And so I had a fundamental problem, and diagrammatically it was that. Because every time I would go run downstairs to access that computer system, use one of those terminals, I'd end up with a stack of unreturned phone calls from faculty members wanting to know why this didn't work or if they could do something else. So I had to figure out how to get that green thing right there to somehow talk through that big thing in the upper left over to the thing in the upper right and make it think that it was something in the lower right. Does that make sense? And that's kind of what it was all about. And so that's what I did. Now, from an entrepreneurial standpoint, this was my experience. And that is, if you're ever, as you start your company, this is what every guerrilla entrepreneur sees himself as. I mean, and this is not to be thought of as being lovely. Your situation, you are stuck on an island and you've got nothing. You barely have shade. You've got an abundance of all the resources you don't need and an absence of everything you think you do. Right about that time, I actually figured out how to solve this problem, and I developed the software to actually make that process work. I soon realized that it really was kind of unique. And so I really thought that this was my mental model, right? Here I am, I was sitting here, and now this is me. But I soon discovered that this was a better picture that described my experience, and that was that the odds were incredibly stacked against me to try to figure out how was a guy in Stillwater, Oklahoma, who solved a particular category of problem supposed to communicate to the world. Now this was there was no Twitter, right? The only way you had to get a message out in the 1980s in our industry, there was no web, right? You could run a press release and buy an ad or get an article in Computer World, and that was about it. So the opportunities for visibility were pretty slim. And this whole idea of showing up at a Fortune 500 company and saying, "Hi, I'm Russ, I'm here to help," really didn't make sense, right? My marketing classes kind of informed me that probably wasn't the right strategy. Besides, the people who live in those large organizations are sequestered away. People who care about your problem are sometimes hard to reach, and so I began to develop my own theory of marketing to the desperate few. And it has to do with finding the people in any organization who are desperate enough to do business with me, right? Because that's the ultimate criteria. If I can find, the handful of people in the industry who really are that desperate, that they'll buy something from me that I've created, I know that I'm making progress. But getting inside their head is a whole different matter. It's not just getting access to them, but it's trying to figure out how do you build a bridge in their thought process to even understand the space you're trying to pioneer. At the end of the day, you realize very concretely that in a lot of cases, it's got to be their idea. And that leads me to kind of one of my first guerrilla moments. So I had developed this software product back in it was the early 80s. And I could sit at my desk on Math Sciences building, first floor. I could log on and access this computer system down in the basement. I could do this. It was flawless. I could do it all day long. Well, the question was, who cared? Well, right about that time, MCI Telecommunications was trying to popularize, get this, one of the very first commercially available electronic mail systems. It was called MCI Mail. Well, now this is arcane history for all of you, right? We all live with iPhones now, and we're living in the cloud, and we're doing this and doing that. But this, trust me, this was rocket science a while back, right? 30 years ago, this was unheard of. So, and it turned out that the advertisements that MCI were running happened to have a picture of one of these, right? But they were trying to sell it to companies who owned a bunch of those. And I knew that, and I knew there had to be someone in MCI who thought that was an issue, a business issue. So the question became, how do you really get someone to think it's their idea? Because again, you're not going to show up and just say, hi, I've got the solution to your problem. So what I did was I sat in the basement of the Math Sciences building, and honestly, this was the start of my business, my first business. I used my product to send an email to the help desk of MCI Mail. And I posed a fairly bogus question, or something, tried to make it sound legitimate at least. And I said at the end, by the way, I'm sending this to you from an IBM terminal using some software I developed. Think anyone else would want to do it? And they responded back a few hours later and said, here's the answer to your question. Oh, by the way, you must be mistaken because it's not possible to use our service from an IBM terminal. Yes, that's your yes moment, right? It's like, okay, the hook is set. Now we just got to reel them in. So, so I sent back and I thanked them for the answer to their question, how to begin a new paragraph in an email message or something like that. And I said, I assure you, as I'm typing this message, my hands, my fingers, literally, are touching the key tops of a keyboard that on it are engraved the words IBM 3270. They sent back an email and said, well, have someone call. Well, the guy who called was this guy right there. Now, I didn't know who he was. He was just some guy who said, hi, Russ, my name is Vint Cerf. I understand that you have a solution to a problem that might be relevant to us at MCI Mail. It was like, again, I really didn't know. Now, an interesting Google search, this is for extra credit, if you get out your iPhone and go Google the name Vint Cerf with a C, C-E-R-F, you will soon learn that this man and a buddy of his invented the TCP/IP protocol that runs every bit of contraption in your purse or pocket, right? And they did the work when they were UCLA researchers, and then went over to the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency. Then he went to BB&N, and then ultimately became MCI's lead scientist in their venture in the communications industry. So this guy was talking to me, and I'm literally sitting there on the first floor of the Math Sciences building, go, hello, Mr. Cerf, my name is Russ. Well, one thing leads to another, and I end up going up there, meeting him. He's the one who finally says, you know, this thing is really good, and let me introduce you to someone who really has the problem. Because it turned out that MCI was trying to sell this service to all their customers. But the trouble was all their customers had those IBM terminals, and the very first question the buyer would ask is, do you use it, right? That's always the first question anyone asks. Do you eat your own dog food, right? So, and of course the MCI rep would have to say, no, because we can't. We have these IBM terminals. The customer would turn around and go, well, so do I. So how do you expect me to use it? So Vint walked me down the hall, introduced me to a very nice gentleman who felt that problem considerably, and as a result, it became their idea. And they owned it, and we were able to walk it in. They became the first customer. What it taught me was that there are certain guerrilla skills that to me are the essence of being an entrepreneur. Whether it's defining new conceptual space intellectually or practically, whether it's beating your drum or sounding your horn off in very unique ways, or whispering in someone's ear at just the right time and in just the right way, or in fact, as the circumstances dictate, beating cheese so that someone else comes to you. The objective is always leverage. Leverage that is totally disproportionate to the resources that I have in my hand or that you have in yours. And to me, that's the dilemma and in fact the fun of being an entrepreneur. Story.
And I think those slides are reflective of the deep psychosis that Russ suffers from his entrepreneurial experiences. And so last up is Paul Sorrentino. Paul, do you want talk a bit about your story.
Sure. And my life kind of comes in three parts. And what she was talking about was like a 1996 snippet of my life, which is when I actually met Russ back then. And Russ, besides very disturbing artwork up there, if you knew Russ back in Stillwater, you go through every 4 years. It's a whole new bunch of people, but I promise you, I know Russ very well, and he is the man, and he's done phenomenal in this town. He was the first one that actually invested into downtown, which I'll come to in just a second, but he put a big effort to downtown, did the first remodel of the downtown building, which made it look beautiful. But all these men are, I am not the smartest man up here, I am clear. You and I, the only thing we have in common, I'm a baker and your name is Paish. That's the closest we can come. These guys are very intelligent. I started back in the day when I graduated from college, and we tried to find a need for what we didn't understand wasn't here, that was in New York. And what happened was plain and simple. A buddy came up to visit right after I graduated college. I had a nice little job, and we went to Eskimo Joe's. And at 2 o'clock in the morning when you leave Eskimo Joe's, you know there's only a few things you can do. A, you can take home the hot chick you just met, Max. We know you're a player. B, you can go back with the guys and drink and talk about how ugly the girls were, which is bullcrap because you know they're going to how ugly you were. Or C, you can go to Shortcakes, which is probably the best option. So my buddy goes, let's go get a bagel, because in New York we couldn't get girls either. And we said, well, let's go get a bagel. And bagel shops stayed open until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning because they would bake all around the clock and you'd go get a bagel. And I go, Rob, they don't sell bagels out here. He's like, how is that possible? I know, they're on every street corner in New York, every shopping center in New York, and they didn't sell them. And the first thing we started talking about is, let's fill a need that we think could be here. And when I brought it to an accountant, which is the first thing you talk about, trying to do some research as you talked about, hedge your risk, because it's going to be a risk. What does he say? He said, absolutely not. You cannot sell enough bagels in this town to make it a bagel shop. What happens if we take a deli? So we took our original idea and started evolving it. And we said, you know what, if we do a deli and we do a bagel shop, we have a great chance of doing it. And that's exactly what we did. And we opened up our first bagel shop in 1986 right next to Eskimo Joe's. And it was badass. We'd stay open till 2 o'clock in the morning. We'd get there literally 3 o'clock in the morning, and we'd work, and the last guy can go home 4 hours early and start again. And the people at the time, the bookstore was called The Fox, and I know Russ was a little college player, and he was out there. And you would literally, you'd come in, they'd come 1:30 in the morning, Eskimo Joe's, The Fox, and where the Hideaway was a cool bar, and in a circle. And we'd stay there at 2 o'clock in the morning, and they would come and just, enjoying their evening, and they put their money, what can I get for this? A lot. And it was exciting. I mean, it was scary because we opened up a bagel shop and people were like, what's a bagel, what's a bagel? And the first week you open up, you're literally standing at the counter with Rob like, yeah, if you build it, they'll come, right? I hope. And we're sitting there like, here he comes. And the article came out, and finally people came in and started writing, like, this is cool. And every once in a while, you get the country guy that would come in, and cowboy boy, and he'd go, let me have one of those. And I'm like, which one? Just the plain one. I'm like, okay. And you're all excited. You want butter, cream cheese? Just hand it to me. I'm like, all right. And I give it to him. He takes a bite. He walks away. This is the hardest damn donut I've ever eaten. I'm like, we're dead. We're dead. But it didn't happen that way. It actually was good. And all of a sudden, summer came around, and we're making good money for the first time. And summer came around, we're like, you know what, it's pretty slow here during the summers. We need to do something else. In downtown, when it was a downtown market, we said we have the same ovens, we have the same bagel machine, let's just open up what we called a satellite store, or a drop shop. It looked like the real store, but it didn't have any equipment in it. The baker would stay an hour longer, I'd pay him another $10 for another hour. And we had a whole new set of bagels, and we opened up a second store for practically nothing over the first store. And it really worked well. We had 2 stores generating cash. Our key thing that we realized, first we thought, well, I don't need employees. I can go without employees. I have a girlfriend I'm dating, and I have my buddy. We're going to work it ourselves. And the first day that big rush came in, I knew nothing about anything, and we're packed, and we're panicked, and the first time the fear's on your face, I'm like, holy crap. I go to my girlfriend, I go, get in the back, get the cream cheese, get back up here and slice the cheese. And she starts, you are not going to talk to me like that. Oh, we're going to hire employees tomorrow. And I thought, I don't know really how to employ, I never employed anyone at the time, and I never hired anybody, I never thought about application. But I remember because I worked for an old guy in New York, and he was kind of an old Jewish curmudgeon guy. And he goes, "Kids, someday you'll have your own store." I'm like, "No, I really will." He's like, "No, I know, but let me give you a piece of advice. When you hire people, hire ugly people." I'm thinking, really? Why? He's like, "They got nothing to do. They never go out at night." I'm thinking, "Oh, yeah, no." And then I'm thinking, "Oh, me and my sister work here." Oh. So, started interviewing right away. I went the other direction, actually. And next thing you know, we have employees, we have 2 businesses, things are going well, we have great people working for us. And we thought, you know what? I had a lot of guys that were working there go, "Man, we really like this, it could work well in Oklahoma City." And Oklahoma City is a big market. This is a tiny market. It's great to be a big fish in a tiny market. It's not hard to get the word out. So we decided to go to Oklahoma City with one of our guys that worked there, and I knew him a long time. And just a quick question to the group. How many people would consider going into business with a best friend? Who would raise their hand? Not many. I wonder if you say, because I don't want to lose my friendship, yeah, I don't want to risk it, or I know my best friend's an alcoholic. I mean, I don't know what your reasons are. I said, you know what? I got a great friend. I'm going to go into business with him because I know him. And in 10 years, if I don't go into business with him, he'll go his direction, I'll go my direction. I'll probably never see him again. We'll talk on the phone, we'll do that whole reunion thing. So I said, you know what? I'll gladly risk a friendship if he's a good guy. So we did. We went to Oklahoma City, we opened up another store, and just the same way, you get nervous, you're doing okay, you plug it along, the article comes out in the Daily Oklahoman, and then you're packed. I mean, literally, you're packed. And I'm like, this is really happening. You're so excited. And you get those, I'm a New Yorker, but I'm a nice New Yorker, and then you get the people online, "Who's here from New York? Who's here from New York? I want to know." I'm like, oh God, another one. So I'm like behind the bagel case, I'm like, I'm from New York, I'm from New York. She goes, "Give me a bagel. I'm going to tell you if this is a New York bagel." I'm like, good, I need to know if I need to change the sign. So I give it the bagel. "This is the real thing. I've been here for 20 years and this is the real." I'm like, how the hell do you talk like that after 20 years? You hooked on New York phonics or something? But I didn't say that. I came out, really? That's a long time, 20 years. You know, I didn't want to make conversation. But I felt like we were passing the test. It was happening. And we took on a party. Then I got another guy who wanted to go to Tulsa with us. I said, you know what, let's go to Tulsa. Let's try it. We opened up on Tulsa, 71st and Yale. And then we did our first big experiment, expanding what we thought. And our big thing was a drive-thru. Could you do a drive-thru? Do you have the ability to do a drive-thru? And I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get a job at McDonald's for 3 days. And I want to see what it takes with a double window and all that stuff. I don't know, you know. And then I go to McDonald's. And literally, I'm the freaking best worker they have at McDonald's. The lady's like, I'm wiping it. "Don't wipe the trays. If you wipe the trays, you all have to wipe the trays." I'm like, "Don't wipe the trays." "If your food falls on the tray, don't eat the tray. I swear to God." And then so McDonald's, make a mistake, even they fail. They had, if you ever saw the one that came over by the high school over there, they came up with 3 drive-through windows. So the first, you pull up to the menu, and you're looking to order, and this happened right when they opened them. I'm like, "Where's the speaker?" I'm like, "Am I on camera?" And there's no speaker. And then I read this, I pull up to the first window. I pull up to the first window, there's a guy there. "I'll take your order." "Really? Like verbally?" He's like, "Yeah." He takes my order. Go to the next window. Go to the next window. "I'm just here for the money." They take your money. Go to the next window. "Here's your food." I'm like, wow, that's a lot of windows for a drive-thru. I'm like, is this and they just had this. I'm like, I don't like it. And then you guys ever been up to McDonald's when they go, "Oh, pull up. Your food's not ready, but pull up, we'll get right to you." I'm like, damn it, I hate that. I freaking hate that. So I said, I'm never doing it again. You know what you want to do? Stay at McDonald's next time and just go, "I'm good. I'll wait." Watch how fast they eat your freaking Big Mac. They'll get it right out to you. Tangent. So, all right. So anyway, we open up our first drive-thru in Cherry Street, and it's a Cordoba now. And we opened up at Cherry Street. We opened our first drive-thru, and we were banging it out. One window, because just anyone in town, who has the best drive-thru in this town right here? Someone give me the best drive-thru in town. Fast food. No one else is Burger King. Wendy's. They have one window, and it's the fastest drive-thru. You can't get through the drive-thru quick enough. I'm at the window. I say pull up. I pull up, and there's no cars in front of me. They're right there with the food. I'm like, oh my God, I want my money ready. They have the best. They have one window, and it's the best drive-thru. I'm like, you know what? We can do it with one window, and we did, and it was phenomenal. Like we banged it out. We enjoyed ourselves. And what our main thing was, we kept taking on partners. I don't know what everyone wants to do with their lives. I have no idea if you want to be rich. Don't ever say rich. First of all, pick a goal. I want to have $1 million by the time I'm 30. Pick it. You'll know at you're 30 if you made it or not. Not, I want to be rich. What's rich? Do I have my health, my family? I don't know. Pick a number, go with it. I want to be $1 million by the time I'm 30. Okay, you're 30, you got $200,000 in the bank. I was a little short. But you know what? You got to go. Along the way, what I've learned is just a few things, and I'm not philosophical. Take advice from people that have done it. I used to sit with, swear to God, and the guy from Pizza Hut, the guy who invented Pizza Hut, I'd sit in his office. I sat there, he goes, why are you here? I said, I just want to talk to you. He goes, what about it? I go, kind of tell me your story. He's like, how the hell did you get in here? But he told me his story. I brought my partner back to hear the story again. And we became friends. Bill Addington out of Tulsa. I kept sitting in front of very, very successful, Rusty Shaw from Stillwater, my mentor. Get a mentor. It's phenomenal. They have so much advice to give. And the one thing I learned is people in the restaurant business, make no mistake, everyone's a critic when you're in the restaurant business. Because, I don't know, I could not criticize your business if you gave me $100. I don't know. You could be the best at what you do, but I don't know. I'm not an expert. I go to an art museum. I'll look at a piece of art. Is it good? I don't know. I think it's good. You know, I don't know. Food? I hated it. I liked it. Everyone has an opinion. So when you're in the food business, everyone will come in and throw you advice. What I learned is people that have done it and failed, or people that have done it and succeeded, are the ones that I respect more than anything. Because those are the ones that have swung. Those are the ones that didn't look at every pitch that went by. And so many people come in and they go, you know what you need to do? I'm thinking in my mind, not listening to you is what I need to do, but I'm going to because you're my customer and you give me 80 cents. Take advice from the people that actually mean a lot. What we've done since the bagel shop, I've had 3 careers. We did the bagel shop, we went public. It didn't do good when it was public, but we still, it was the end of our bagel career. We did good, we cashed out, we said good. I wasn't happy the way it went public at all. Became a professor for 8 years. Taught at the school, hotel, and restaurant. Loved it, swam in it every day. Then went back into the market, and now we've opened up probably 6 or 7 restaurants in the last couple of years. I don't know if you know Cafe 7 in Oklahoma City. Phenomenal. Last year alone, we sold 57,000 pizzas. I'm not even a pizza place. We just bang it out. We have chefs, and I have incredible, incredible partners. I pick people that I trust, that will not steal from me, that will work as hard as I want to work, and can appreciate everything. I share the pie. I am in a better financial situation than I was when I first started out, so I can actually afford the younger people to say, you know what, I'll foot the bill, I'll put up a rent house, I'll put up the money. You'll get sweat equity, and I'll give it to them. But I guarantee they work their butts off, and they've paid off every restaurant I have, and I'm only 1 restaurant away from paying off the rest of them. They paid off. I make people work. I work with Alicia's my partner for Boston Avenue Grill. We paid off the restaurant in 18 months. We have Old School Bagel in Tulsa, out of control. Is anyone from Tulsa here at all? Down in Peoria, we have Old School Bagel. It's got a drive-thru. It's a machine. We sell the best cookies. I should have bought cookies, Mike, if you said something. We sell 2,000 cookies a week. Just cookies, just side notes. We bang it out. We're going to do another one at 68th and Yale. We're doing another Cafe 7 downtown. We're opening up a restaurant here in Stillwater. I would love everyone to come down and visit it. It's right next to where Russ had his business down there. It's 7th and Main. It's called Brooklyn's. It'll be the coolest restaurant in Stillwater. What you like about it is if you ever, and besides Max, because Max is always busy with girls, if ever, maybe, if you ever go out on a Friday and Saturday night in Stillwater, it's pretty packed these days. These restaurants are pretty packed on a Friday and Saturday. You have a wait, you have a half-hour wait, 30-minute wait, 45-minute wait, whatever. Here, we have a downstairs wine bar that seats 84. So you go into Brooklyn's, sir, we're busy right now, but would you like to go in the wine bar and have a drink? Absolutely, I would. So you go downstairs, we'll give you a little ringer, and the best part is when you're down there, and all of a sudden they go, your table's ready, we transfer your ticket upstairs. What's the most inconvenient thing in a restaurant? Okay, the bartender's like, oh, yeah, you need to cash out here. Yeah, no, right now, I need my tip. And that's why you do it, because bartenders want their tip. We're going to transfer the ticket upstairs. You can continue your experience, take a glass of wine with you, you drink, your soda, whatever it is, and you get to enjoy it. So we have a cool restaurant. We open up just here in we're shooting for about November 16th, November 17th, and it's just a great experience. And one of the greatest things we did, and probably the whole avenue of what we've done, is when we won the National Entrepreneur of the Year, it was phenomenal. You don't do it for any other reason but to be in your own business, try to find your own way. But when the president literally shakes your hand, I don't care if you like or hate President Clinton or Obama or whoever's handing you the next door, you're like, holy crap, it's the president. Grab my wife ass, have at it, I don't care, you're the president. But I mean, it's a fun experience. So whenever you guys do it, you always have to enjoy it, but always make sure your vision is clear with everyone else in the company what your vision is. All my partners that I take on, they understand exactly what I see, and they can see my vision. And when they can see your vision, you'll be successful. If you're kind of convoluted, you're not sure how you're going to do it, your partners will lose. But don't be afraid of partners, and also have a contract in everything you do, guys. Just everything you do. I don't care what it is, whatever you're doing with business. I don't know if you guys have partners, but have a contract. Because no matter what, if you get in an argument, you can always defer. So that's my wish. Thank you.
So, let me start with a simple question. Each of you started your original venture relatively young. When you started your business, the day you started your business, how much money did you have in the bank?
I borrowed it from my dad.
Nothing. For us?
10.
$200?
$200. Julio?
Nothing.
Zero.
No, zero.
No bank account.
No, I mean, there was nothing that I could.
For you?
I spent my last 54, so nothing.
Nothing. So, I doubt in those days people had classes like this and used terms like guerrilla thinking. But in what ways in those early days did that term guerrilla apply to your lives?
Plugging in my computer in my dorm room and using the OSU internet. Probably shouldn't say that on camera, right? But, you know, I wouldn't know where to go find high-speed access for nothing. So just starting the communications with people who were decision makers. And I agree with you, Paulie, about contracts. My first project was for Stan Clark. I built their holiday website, and he paid me with gift certificates. And I just, I realized, okay, maybe I should write down how I want to get paid. And, terms.
Interesting.
I think when for me, it was more on seeing that the kind of they were looking at, they were need in terms of exchange where it benefit both of us, because it makes probably have computers and then their support, and also for me it would cost more money if I could pay for the slot. I think also the example also it's more on the when we were looking at painting houses in the main road, so that when cars, even people are passing that house, they could see our logos. So where we said that we'll paint the house and put our logos, the whole house. In return, we'll give you training with computer, so that we could make sure that people sees us as a kind of a brand that people can identify. And it's
So
still
the
there.
whole side of this guy's house is yours.
Yeah, it's still there today. I mean, it's there. They get training and they got the computer. But it works, I mean, for us in terms of see opportunity around the corner.
So a lot of barter.
It's a lot of barter. I mean, it's a lot of barter, and I think also there was a program. I mean, there were also another third one with a student of ISA, where they see the lady who runs the educare with kids, and the lady needs computers, and now she can able to buy computers and training. So the best thing, it's more for us to have our signage and branding in their cars. Bright Cellulo, and people can see in the cars, everyone that drive that car, see us their name.
So this is another entrepreneur who has a business where they take kids to school and pick them up, driving these vans. And in exchange for some computers and computer training, they paint the side of the vans with Luvulio's company name, and tens of thousands of people see that every day. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, because it works for us. I mean, obviously, ladies get the computer and the training, and fine. And for us, the sign is still there even today. And so it's a long term in terms of the Guerilla marketing more than now, because it's it for years to come.
Russ, you said this is in your blood.
Well, it seems like it marks a lot of my experiences, whether it's from trying to get my first customer or trying to hire my first employee or getting my first corporate tax filing done. That was an interesting experience. So, trying to figure out how do you, I knew I was way in over my head with what the business we've done, so trying to barter my way into getting my first year's tax prep work was an interesting experience. Also trying to hire people. I mean, I think all of us, when we've hired our first few employees as young entrepreneurs, it's just, it's gut-wrenching. But it's also at the same time, you don't know what you're doing, really. And so it's quite the experience for me, of trying to do something, take on a real legal relationship with someone as an employee, where you really don't know at the beginning, A, what you're doing, or B, how you're somewhat going to make good on this implied commitment that you just made. But one way or the other, you've done it. So I think the first 2 years of my first business were filled with those little moments along the way, where you're trying to take a little scrap of something that you have and create a bit of leverage in a different domain. So whether it's me solving a computer problem for the guy who was my attorney, or something else, and you're just constantly maximizing every shred you have, for me.
I agree with Russ 100%. I think it's a means to an end. It isn't a way to do business, but it's you do whatever you can to get started. Radio, even literally the last 2 months, we did the Big Mad Morning Show in Tulsa, and it was all in barter. It was all in trade out. I think you do what you can in the beginning to survive. You get radio advertising, you don't have any money, and I think you do that. The best thing we ever did when we hired someone, we literally had a baker, and he just every night had car trouble coming in. He pulled over, and he wasn't exactly the smartest guy. He can get a DUI without even drinking, and you're like, you know what, you're late. If you're late, 2 stores can't open up. So what we did was, we bought him a house. Literally bought him a small 1,300 square foot house right behind the bagel shop. I said, Robert, as long as you work for me, you will live in this house. And he worked for me after I left the company, because it was perfect. And on a selfish note, oh really? You're quitting? Yeah, you're homeless. So I kind of had him too, but it really worked. It was probably the smartest thing we ever did.
And how long were you at McDonald's?
I actually, for 3 days what I came on for, but after the second day, I pretty much had to figure it out. I only messed up twice. Welcome to the bagel shop. McDonald's.
So if we think about this, and each of you has given some examples of very clever things you did. Guerilla Tactics. It's not like you ever took a course in Guerilla Tactics. So how do you learn to come up with these clever solutions? Just pure, in the moment, the crisis?
For me, it's always been some sort of an odd blend of determination and desperation. when those two things kind of collide, something happens and you start looking for alternatives that I wouldn't have considered before.
I think also I understand the need in terms of what you're looking at and the environment that you're operating in, and looking at in terms of how creative and innovation way that you could find a solution on your problem where you don't spend resources, but also it becomes a situation that it's become win-win, where you could add value to what you're looking at, but also in return you can get something that I think it's more looking at how it was. I mean, like part of guerrilla marketing that you do, it's a kind of looking at beyond long term. How do you make sure that beyond that you are doing this kind of putting this as a marketing part of the relationship that we are doing through that. So it was more around the situation that I probably were in, and we need to find a kind of solution around the situation. And we need to think out of the environment that we're in.
I agree with him so much. I think you hear the word no all the time. Nope, nope, no. And I'm telling you, I hear it all the time. I want this location, you can't have it. Every time I hear no, I'm thinking, no, what he said was, you gotta come up with a new way to get it. And I'm not just bullshitting. It is how it is. We have a location we're getting at 61st and Yale. I've heard no 5 times. Warren Clinic owns the property. It's next to Mahogany's. You can't have it, you can't have it, you can't have it. Well, all of a sudden I got a guy coming in this angle. I got a guy coming to this angle. Now all of a sudden the guy from the Warren Clinic, I call him up. He's like, hey, you stroll all the time? I love you. You guys be perfect. So I hear no all the time. Can't do this, can't have occupancy. In Tulsa, we're trying to do a rooftop bar down in Brookside. No, no, no. There's another angle at it. When you hear no, don't listen to no. Listen to, oh, wait a minute, what else can I do to get it? And that's a constant.
Were you a difficult child?
What's the problem with my sister? I was the greatest guy. Kidding. I just know she wouldn't take no.
So, I talked a little earlier about risk. Piyush, how do you view risk? How do you approach it?
I think what you started with, calculated risk. So I'm an all-in. I'm ready to go all in as long as I know I'm going to win. And I think what makes people think entrepreneurs love risk is I'm willing to go all in with everything. And some people are like, well, I'll go in for $5. Great. I'll go in with everything. But I know I'm going to win. And a lot of people are like, well, even though if I know I'm going to win, I'll just go in $5 because just in case I don't win. So if the odds are really good that this is a great partner, great customer, great service, great whatever it's going to be, if it's going to turn out to be a win, then we're stupid not to go for it.
How do you know you're going to win?
I don't know. I guess maybe that's that little, you know, what do they say? Your intuition is a mixture of experiences and failures and wins. So if you have enough, if you bet enough, you're always going to figure out when your win-loss rate's going to be. And you just keep trying. Can't figure it out.
It's more on the, I think, belief that the thing that you want to do that have the risk that it will work, and I think believe through your guts that doing this thing and involving this, it could work in the sense that you believe in it. You know? I mean, part of that kind of a risk that will come in, you'll be able to take off that risk. It's not something that you are trying as not going to do it. So that in you, that tells you that able to do this, that kind of minimizes kind of a risk. So it's kind of it's that natural instincts that we'll be able to have it around the risk.
Okay.
For me, I think the way I tend to categorize risk is, first of all, to ask if it's a risk I can afford to take. And there have been a couple along the way where I've said, no, I really can't afford to take that risk. One of them was when I was, back in the 80s, when I was an employee of Oklahoma State, I probably could have, I guess, gotten away with using the computer system to do the development work without paying for it. but if I had, if I really believed in what I was doing and really thought there was value there, that would have been the worst risk I could have taken, because I could have compromised my own claim to the intellectual property I was trying to build. So I set up an account with the computer center and wrote a check every month and kept a record of what I used and what I paid. It turned out to be a real, a whole different story. It turned out to be a real godsend a few years later because of a certain circumstance came up. But that was a risk I could not afford to take, right? I couldn't afford to risk anything related to my intellectual property rights regarding the software I was trying to create. But so if, as long as it passed the is it a risk I can afford to take, then I'm pretty willing to take risks and bet on people and bet on concepts. I think there was a period of time, I don't know if you ever went through this or you guys have, but you know, after you've had some experience as an entrepreneur, it seems like everyone I've observed, and I know I went through this, where you really just kind of think like everything you touch can turn to profitability. And so you get, as soon as you realize that's not true, that you really can lose money, you really can make some really stupid decisions, you begin to filter your world of risk opportunities a little better.
I think in the beginning you have nothing really to lose. I mean, when we opened up our first business, we were 24. I was risking my dad's money. I was willing to do it. And then we go to the next venture. You start, like you said, you start feeling good about it. You know, I can do it. I can do it. And then and then there's a shift where you start saying, how long can my streak go? And it can go pretty long. But you know, then you start taking a risk, and then you start, like you said, I now have partners in everything I do. Now, a lot of them I'll pay for certain things, but like Brooklyn's, that's a cash restaurant. Everyone has leveraged themselves. We know that's going to be a successful restaurant, but you know what? It's an expensive deal. It's an $800,000 deal. So everyone ponied up their share of the money. No bank debt. And yet, will it be a winner? Absolutely. Do I want to put $800,000 of my own money? Absolutely not. You know, so we leverage.
So your views of risk change over the years, but as you've aged,
Russ has, I have.
do you find that the Guerrilla thing still is how you do business?
Totally. All day, every day. My project this year was, I just walked into my executive team and said, let's start a cult. And they're like, that's crazy and random. I was like, no, we're going to have a cult of employees and a cult of customers. So let's just do that. How are we going to do that? And so we spent the year, and you know, it's funny to walk in on these meetings and they're like, okay, well, certain cults work with, you know, you have to have somebody that you hate. So our big thing is, we hate textbooks. I think they suck. And it was like, pick a fight. So how are we going to go get Guerrilla on picking a fight? So we go to trade shows where they have book vendors, and we go pick fights. And what that does is it creates customers who either love you or hate you, and you want to, you know, I'm a big believer in the Net Promoter Score, so either you're going to promote our product or you're going to detract from our product. We don't want to deal with detractors. So if you can love us or hate us in a polar way, that's the raw guerrilla tactic of, if I can find, you know, half this room who would love my product, then I can help you spread my message much faster than trying to get all of you to spread it, which I'll spend half my energy on half the people who won't spread the message, if that makes sense. So really at the core of what we do, almost everything is guerrilla.
I think I mean, the more time, the more it becomes exciting with the guerrilla marketing. Because, I mean, it makes us to be kind of on the position that kind of adrenaline pumps, where we decide to paint the area blue and white in terms of the color, where we go to bus stop and then we paint it. And tomorrow you'll have a call from city official, municipality, and calling you that you're not supposed to paint there. It's public space. you need to pay the amount to pay because you're a business. So it's sometimes problematic. And sometimes you put a kind of a posters, different posters, which is creativity, on the church buildings or the school. Not supposed to do that. So it still makes us to kind of interesting and exciting. It's not something that you say that, you know, we've made it, we have done it, and then we could relax now. There's no more. Keep on like finding ways that how can we become relevant through the guerrilla marketing.
Okay, good. What do you got? Victor?
This is 21. Don't the guerrilla tactics sometimes jeopardize your integrity and values, especially out there? Because sometimes these unconventional ways are not what people are really looking forward to business people doing.
I think it's possible, but it doesn't have to be probable. And that is that, yeah, I could have approached maybe the way that I funded the acquisition of computer science in such a way that it ultimately would have affected my integrity. I didn't want that, so I chose not to. So I think it's just a matter of choice. I mean, the way you get your message out, the way you advertise it, the way you create, people who either love you or hate you, those, you can execute strategies like that or tactics like that and pretty much steer clear of the grand moral ethical issues like that. But I think your point is well made in that I don't think as an entrepreneur you want to early in your career or even late in your career, you don't want to fly too close to that flame where your long-term integrity or your credibility is questioned.
So if I use somebody else's office and pretend it's mine to impress a potential client, is that okay?
I've never done that. Yeah. Well, I have, in fact. That's why they build admirals clubs all around the country. Well, yeah, it's a fair point. Does it? If I structure a meeting in a particular location, do I want the goodness of that locale to somehow communicate something about me, my product, or my brand identity? Absolutely. Would I sit there and represent that as something I own, as my space necessarily? I would choose not to.
But this is a bit of the essence of the guerrilla approach.
It is.
I get a post office box in Beverly Hills to have the address. Other questions? Yes, Lindsay.
I want to know how you invest back into your employees to create a guerrilla type environment. So what do you tell them and how do you train them to make them see your vision?
You know what? You can't do it with everyone. You can't broad stroke it. Minimum wage. That's who I deal with. These guys deal with people that don't get minimum wage. Minimum wage is the lowest legal amount the government will let me pay you. So it's not the desirables all the time. So what we do is there's two different things. One is I can only make them enjoy their job because I'm paying them minimum wage. So I'm not going to give them financial incentives. Yeah, sure, a quarter here and there, but they want more of an appreciation when they work for me at that level. They want to come in and go, you know what, I can work anywhere for $7.25 an hour, but I like you. And that's why the bagel shop and Alicia's restaurant and some, they like it because there's a sense of community. Now at the next level, we'll bait people with, and I say bait but it's true, but it's like that carrot dangling in front of them. You work for me this much, you're going to get paid this much. You work for me this much longer, we're going to give you health insurance. And then the players will become partners, and that's how we find them. They rise to the cream. I mean, make no mistake. Yesterday, someone pissed me off at work. I was the most unpleasant individual because I looked at him like he's a future partner, not just a minimum wage guy. So I felt like I set his level higher, and I would never talk to someone minimum wage like him, but him, I'm like, you're gonna be part of this team, or you're not gonna be part of this team, I wanna know. And it elevates him. So those are the 3 tiers. Comfort of feeling good, basic financial incentives, and then partnership.
I think in different industries, different groups, different kinds of businesses, we're dealing with lots of different kinds of people. So I deal with a relatively small number of software people who have a very unique skill set and a very unique background. So they are jacks of all trade or Jills of all trade and masters of one or two. But they have to have both an element of breadth and some real element of depth. If they don't have that depth in one of the subject matter domains, their value is compromised. So the question is, how do you motivate someone like that? How do you take someone who values creativity and values competence and things like that and create an environment where they want to follow you and grow and develop? In our world, money is good, don't get me wrong, but the opportunity to really grow and develop and be able to have the sense that it could be you who makes that next breakthrough on behalf of our largest customer. That motivates a lot of people. But they want to be that person too, who can figure that next real problem out.
I think also for us, it's more part of the kind of idea come from the employees. And then how do you do that? You create the involvement, the belonging, the understanding of the vision of the business, where they feel part of it, part of the initiation around the marketing in terms of how do you grow it. You get those ideas from them. And mostly are young people that kind of have different thinking that I used to have in 7 years back. They are eager and they kind of do something that's kind of difficult for me to do now and whereas 7 years back. So it's invest from them and we hear their voice. Not every time we take everything that they will say, but they will feel valued, they will feel part of the asset, and they could see that any initiative that we do part of the marketing, they are part of the marketing.
We invest quite a bit. A lot of I'd say more than half our staff is from California. So to pluck them out of a movie and bring them to Oklahoma and have them live in Oklahoma City, they love it because they're home by 5:30. They can buy a house for the first time. They can raise a family. But their fear is, if you guys let me go, there's nobody else making movies. So where would I go? So we've had to really work on that company culture, that piece that says, like what all these guys are saying, after money and shelter, it's belonging, meaning, and affirmation is really what people want. And I don't know if you've read the book 5 Love Languages. Read that a couple years ago, just completely changed my life. And so I use that with my staff. I give them a little questionnaire, and I can quickly figure out, I can give this person more money, and it means nothing to them. I need to send them a card. So even little guerrilla tactics like I quit giving raises in my office. I call them in, I send them an email, hey, can I talk to you at 3? And then they come in and be like, yeah, what's going on? And their fear was I was going to fire them. And I'm giving them a raise. And so I sent the wrong message. Instead, I said, hey, can I go have dinner with you and your husband? Or can my wife and I go have dinner with you and your wife? And I'd take them out to dinner. We'd have a great meal, tell them how much I appreciate them. Oh, P.S., you're getting a raise. And I'd say that in front of their spouse, which was almost this magical moment of, don't you ever quit this job. So, I had a motive, and I had a reason for doing it, and it was just to create a cult, create that loyalty of, this is amazing. I don't want you to quit your job, no matter how hard it gets.
Jamie?
You've all kind of started small and really grown your businesses, but it sounds like you've maintained that guerrilla mindset and used guerrilla tactics throughout. So from large to small, what would you say is one of the core competencies of a company that really exercises that guerrilla entrepreneurship?
I think it was on the board, do more with less. So if you come in our office, right in the entryway, there's a big sign that says do more with less. And that just means you get to make more money. I mean, it's a real simple formula, right? Income minus expenses equals profit. So the more profit, the more you can spend on expenses, which is people. That's my biggest cost, is smart people. So and we try to teach that formula. You can read a balance sheet all you want or P&L, but at the end of the day, it's a real simple formula. If you want to make more money, you got to spend less.
I think because we keep on expanding to different areas, and there are kind of different areas with different kind of people that we go to those areas, and once they're able to involve in terms of finding ways how to make sure that it becomes relevant, it works, it encourages kind of the thinking around Guerilla in terms of how to make sure that we could make it work, the center this side, and we could make it work between for a period of 6 months, so that we could break even 6 to 12 months. I mean, don't have much more cost. So that keeps that spirit of you want to make sure that things are kind of working and making fast, so that we make sure that we keep on opening other areas and we don't have a problem around areas. So that involvement and see and be part of the business, it makes them drive the company business.
So I guess this software company is my 5th venture in that industry, and fifth major product. And I think what I've learned in that process is start, for me, I think this is just the way I'm wired as an entrepreneur. When I start something from a position of abundance, I spend too much and it takes too long. And I'm not sure, I mean, that's just me, right? Because I'll overthink it, I'll try to make the model, the business model, too difficult. I'll think I need things because I can buy them or whatever. And so it doesn't keep me as focused. So whereas if I'm starting something from a position of need or want in some element of that equation, I don't know, I finally discovered I do better.
I will go with Russ's answer. Good job, Russ.
Way in the back there in the orange.
In all your guys' ventures, have you guys ever utilized any type of guerrilla or unique advertising strategies to kind of grow your corporation, your business?
I think we have the poster child for that right here.
I mean, I think still today, the part of the Guerilla that we've used as a barter system, we continuously using it. I mean, through local, even on print, not only on radio. I mean, for us to be on the local article, newspaper article, part of the editor or part of the team on the marketing, this is what we say, that we could provide you with computers, a laptop, could do your job well, quick, and you will write a story with the editorial and with an advert that you put on us. And we use it even in areas that we are far away, in terms of the rural areas and remote areas, in terms of not use more on monetary, use more as like a partnership, that we are here together, we are here to assist each other. You have air, you have print, and for us we need the opportunity to write good PR about the business. So in return we'll be able to give you and support you through that.
Yeah, Lavoya's got some great leveraging examples as well. He's a big believer in giving back, and so he mentors a lot of young entrepreneurs in the townships, and so these are people without anything. And so he has some extra space in one of his facilities, and he's got these young entrepreneurs that he mentors. And one of them he gives a little bit of that space to. And invests a little in the business in. You might have heard him tell a story earlier about how the largest cell phone company in South Africa, Vodacom, has now come to partner with him, trying to reach into the townships. But a great example of leveraging is, so one of these entrepreneurs that works with them is a community magazine for the township. And the township has now grown to almost 2 million people. So a township-based magazine that Lavuyo now has a piece of, right? And so, of course, the magazine is now starting to get legs because Vodacom has become the key advertiser in the magazine. So the circle goes in terms of leveraging relationships. Who's next? Yes, sir.
Other than possibly marketing or advertising, through your long-term growth and expansions, do you have any other examples of how you've, in a guerrilla fashion, leveraged relationships, your contacts and your networks to benefit you in other positive ways?
I'll share one with you about trade shows. And I'm 50-50 on are they effective or not, but at the time you just think everybody goes to a trade show, so we must go to the trade show too. And if you look down one of these tiles aren't even 12 inches, they're bigger than that. But they're $45 for each square foot. And we picked a 10 by 20, so you're already in $9 grand just for concrete. And then you gotta carpet it, and you gotta get your crap there, you gotta get people there. So at the end of the day, we spent 80 grand for 3 days. Just to have that space, to be there, to play with everybody. And I was like, okay, how do we get as much of this back as possible? So we sponsored part of that 80 grand, we gave 10 grand to the biggest player in our space to be a partner for their party with Vanilla Ice, right? And this is way after he was cool. So it was like, oh my God, this guy's still alive?
Was he ever cool?
It was cool there, late 80s, he had a little moment. So, you know, here you are at this trade show, how do you make back 80 grand, right, in 3 days? And so that's the name of the game. What are we gonna close in 3 days to make up 80 grand? Well, we gave away 1,000 shirts, the same shirts our staff are wearing. So now all of a sudden, all of our competitors are going, oh my God, how many employees do you guys have at this show? Everybody. Wow, that's crazy. There's like thousands of you running around. Well, there's only 9 of us really, but they all look like all of us. So we gave away stuff if you wore a shirt. So awesome, now you've got a reason to wear the shirt. Wear the shirt, you get first in line at the party. Now all of our staff are at the party, right? It seems that way. Little things like it's $300 an hour to pay some guy to read the instructions and put your booth together. So we would show up Saturday morning, kind of mill around, get the lay of the land, figure out where everything was, and then show up right about 7:30 at night, because they close at 8. But if you're in at 7:30, you can work through the night. They just shut the doors and you can work. Awesome. You come in the next morning and our booth is all put together, and they're going, hey, who are these guys? They didn't pay anything. We already got it put together. I'm like, all right, never mind. On to the guy next to you who's just getting there, and they're on the hook for $300 an hour, and they take their time. They're there all day long, spinning their wheels. So I think it's just little tactics like that you know, you're going to have to go to the show. How do you maximize your time at the show to get your money back? And we sold on the show floor, so it was like, let's go, cash and carry, right? You're signing up right now. And so it was real easy to measure. I would take my staff out for amazing dinners, but I was like, if you guys stop for an hour to go eat a $9 slice of crappy pizza, it was like $4,800 an hour is what we were burning. So it was like, you can go eat that $9 piece of pizza, but I will take you out on the most amazing dinner tonight, because it's still cheaper than me paying you $4,500 to go have a pizza and take a break. So we would just work it. We'd work it hard.
Any other examples?
It's also for us, I mean, it's as we expand to deeper to South Africa, maybe go to Africa in no time. And the area that we're not familiar with, based on language, based on culture, and it's more on looking what probably, if there's nothing that is there that already done, if people don't have any IT centers that are there. So what we could look at partnership with the existing one, finding a way that how able to use each other's resources because it's got presence, it's been known, and then for us we know it and could scale it better and could bring power partnership in terms of leveraging in the name of big existing and come together, but use our brand outside in terms of Sululo, and himself will be able to do better as a business because now he partner with us, which is like be proven, and then there's a bigger branding that we're leveraging in terms of the presence. So it's one partnership to buy in people. They feed in that you are part of them and you are kind of empowering them, and they see that there's a difference that we are making. Two, it's more on those areas that you can't speak the language. We have someone, that will speak the language, who stay there, that will come and learn the culture and be part of us for some time, and able to work in that environment so that they could able to relate, could able to see that there's someone that they know, and you are buying to the business. That way, able to expand very quick. You won't have a problem in terms of being there because it will take some time for you to make sure that it works for these areas.
One area of relationships that we've tried to leverage as gracefully as possible is with our customers. It seems like not necessarily business contacts, or those are important, but the relationships that we build with a customer tend to be very a whole well of ideas, and that's, to us, that's what a customer represents. So, for example, I told the story about my very first customer of my first product and my first company was MCI. Well, it turned out in the course of doing business with them, just by literally listening to the angst in their voice about a particular problem they were having, we created a whole new and what was arguably a far more profitable product that had nothing to do with what we did. And it was about kind of leveraging that relationship. I think if you boil, for me, if you boil Guerrilla Tactics down to a science, which I'm not sure you can, but it starts with seeing well and hearing well. And just listening to what someone says is critical. It always, what I see and what I hear around customers is always the fertile ground for me. So, and that's really why I ended up getting out of my former company and starting this one. I realized one morning in the shower that I wasn't having any fun. And for the last 24 months, all I had seen were accountants, lawyers. We were doing merger and acquisition work, building the successor company. And that wasn't me. I hadn't talked to a real customer who had a real problem that I could solve in that kind of guerrilla way for at least 18 months, maybe longer. And so I knew I had to change. I had to go. The first thing I did was go listen. Just go ask a bunch of questions. So for me, it's the guerrilla aspect of using relationships has been more customer driven, and just asking them and listening to them and getting to know them.
I think that probably the number one thing that you all are going to be hit up on is donations. And, it's a great way to get your word out there, but sometimes it's lost in the abyss. And what I mean by that is they'll say, donate $50, donate $100. What you really want to donate is somehow your product, and then get them into your store, whether it be through anything all of us do, whether it be through, I don't want to give you $100, but I'll give you 30 $5 coupons to come in for a certain day. Get them into your store. Somehow get them into your product. We just did an old school bagel. We just did, in Tulsa, we have those giant cookies, and we handed out 150 coupons for cookies. That only means they're going to come in and get a giant cookie and buy something else. They're coming into my store. They're still getting something free. They're still getting the donation. But whatever it is, whether it's software or anything, look at it differently and say, how can I get them into my store and becoming a customer of mine permanently, instead of just, here's this.
Yeah, I've been to the Peoria old school. In fact, had to jam on the brakes because as I came up Peoria, the line to your drive-up window was out onto the street. And Tulsa's not a place where you can't find another bagel. So I'm also assuming you didn't have some huge marketing budget when you,
We do zero, and I'm not exaggerating. We only use product. We get away with murder on everything as far as getting the word out there financially. It's word of mouth. And a lot of donations to it, stuff like that.
yes, Jasmine?
You mentioned doing guerrilla tactics and advertising and marketing, but at the same time, is there a limit to doing the guerrilla tactics to the point where it won't hurt your brand image in the eyes of the customer? Because, for example, you can go into South America and you'll find Pepsi ads on sides of houses everywhere, and that's not necessarily the most tasteful thing. So where do you cap that?
Well, the thing that we do, whatever it takes, it's a brand. I think something that we value by all means to the brand. I think all what we do through Guerrilla marketing is to promote the brand. So we don't promote the brand the same thing that able to impact with the brand. So we look at area where we look at kind of guerrilla marketing that we do. Don't do anywhere. I mean, you cannot do it in the main Cape Town, the same thing that we do in Kailis. It won't work, and it will have huge impact on the brand. So it depends on the area in terms of this area, what can we do as part of like something different, they've never done it, that makes makes people to talk about it in the bus stop, in the train station, in the cars. And that thing is you make them to talk good, not talk in terms of something that is have a problem with them. So it's something that we look at the brand, and we look at specific on certain areas that we do.
I think there's a point at which you have to constrain yourself in terms of using those, your guerrilla skill set or whatever. I certainly don't want my large, successful, big customers to believe that they're engaged in some sort of a guerrilla tactics activity with me as their software provider. But on the other hand, the way I run my business, the way I manage my supply chain coming into me, the way I make sure that I create something that really allows me to build a really superior value proposition for a customer, that's kind of a different side of the house. So, I would not want those tactics to necessarily tarnish my brand identity, my image. I want our brand and our customers, I want them to know that we're the roll up your sleeves sort of guys, that we really do dig in, that no problem is too difficult. There's certain, and some of those themes that we try to create in our brand certainly are kind of resident in that whole guerrilla mindset. But I don't want them to feel like they're getting engaged in something that they don't really want to.
So I hope all of you are catching one of the most vital subtexts of this story. I mean, what do we have here? We got a guy who makes movies. We got a guy who sells computer training to poor people in townships. We got a guy selling significant software solutions to major companies, and we got a guy selling bagels. You can't get much more diverse than that, and yet you see these common themes. You hear this common message. Who's next? Way in the back there.
In using guerrilla techniques, do you believe that your company structure was a result of your guerrilla techniques, or do you believe that your company structure is beneficial, like some an organic structure versus like a hierarchical structure? Do you believe that one would work better for guerrilla techniques than the other?
So I think the question is the way you structure the company have something to do with the behavior, the guerrilla behavior?
I don't think so. There's no textbook on what's guerrilla and what's not, right? So maybe if you replace the word with unconventional. So you use any unconventional marketing, right? So it's not going to diminish our brand. I could probably get some crazy news if I ran outside and did something really nuts, right? But it wouldn't be good, right? And our brand is everything. It's that brand equity is worth a lot more than what I can get off that news piece of, the CEO of this crazy company went and did something stupid. So, are we hierarchical, are we flat, are we, we're moving to a row environment, which is a results-only work environment, meaning people come and go, there's no set hours, you just take vacation when you want to take vacation, it's all about getting the stuff done. Is that Guerilla? Probably. It's because it's unconventional, right? It's different. But there's no textbook that says, oh, well, it's Guerilla, so you have to go this way. It's just what works.
I've drawn so many organizational charts in my life, it's just nauseating, right? And with trying to align people, functions, and I still remember trying to achieve, the optimal matrix organization of 300 people doing this spread across X country. I finally kind of decided, there's no rule here. I'm not even sure there's a way to use organizational theory to slant the odds in your favor. It boils down to, in part, tone at the top of the organization and whether or not kind of the fundamental DNA of the organization are cast a certain way. And that has as much to do, if anything, whether or not, marketing reports to this or that, or, I've got a matrix slant right formation or whatever it is. As long as, what I finally ended up doing as my first company grew, trying to figure out how to align people, I kind of gave up and I said, here's what I really care about in 4 areas: people, product, process, and profit. And I wrote that down. I put my thoughts on one piece of paper, those 4 areas, and they became known as my 4 Ps. And I said, within those guardrails, knock yourself out, right? I'm not an organizational guy. I'm tired of drawing charts. You guys go figure that out, and they did.
Rock?
I have a specific question about the business model of Southwest Airlines. And I know this company has a really interesting business model. This is a company that has been profitable when other companies in the same industry have been losing money. How could you explain the way Guerilla Tactics are used to the success of the business model of Southwest Airlines?
I can speak to that. Actually, I know a lot of the higher-ups there. A client of ours, they have a diabolical plan, right? I think really great companies have a diabolical plan. Their diabolical plan is wheels up. And they talk about it internally quite a bit. So wheels up means if we can be in the air 4 hours more than anybody else, we're making money. So what does that mean? Do we have food on the plane? Can we get wheels up? Is that slow? Yeah, it slows us down. No food. Do we do pre-assigned seating? Yeah, everybody does pre-assigned seating. Does it slow stuff down? Yep. So let customers shove each other into seats, right? But you know what? You're going to get there. You can get there usually on time. So we stole BlackBerry's. BlackBerry's diabolical plan was easy in, impossible out. So everything about their server is, can you get this thing fired up in a few hours? Yes. And once it's fired up and their customers are using it, can you get rid of it? No. Awesome. So we stole that. We were like easy access, impossible to cancel. So
in the software business, we kind of favor the addiction model. We kind of like to get people hooked on things. And then we tend to like licensing models that reinforce that. In my first company, we never sold a perpetual license. We only sold 1-year licenses. And so when we became embedded in their infrastructure, of course, it became, a critical part of their business operation. So, and one of my early advisors in my company, he said, Russ, you always got to remember that you need to approach the software business like the oil business, right? You're playing for the downstream interest and revenues, not the upfront fees. And so a lot of the software, very successful software companies have figured it out that it's not about the one-time hit, it's about the ongoing revenue model. The licensing model is managed extremely carefully, and that's probably the single most significant decision that I made when I try to look at a product. It's what's the licensing model, and when are we going to switch? Because we do that too. So right now, at this phase of this company, when I started this company, I used perpetual license and a maintenance level of a certain kind. Now, over time, I'm moderating that where I'm pushing more of a subscription-based license model because I don't need the infusion of cash that upfront license or perpetual license generated. I'll play for the ongoing revenue from the annual licenses. So for a software business, the license model is everything.
Yeah, and I think a very different yet similar variation on that is what you do, Lavoyo. I mean, somebody comes in the township and they need computer training, right? And so the computer training, learning how to use the computer, you're learning how to do a resume, learning enables you to possibly get a job. And then once you get a job, what do you need? You need a computer. So we come and buy the rebuilt computer from Lavoyo. And by the way, along the way, now that you're sort of computer literate, you want to use the internet, and you don't have an internet back at your home, you come to the internet cafe. And so it's a similar type of model, just in a different kind of universe. Who else? Yes.
All of you guys obviously started out as guerrilla entrepreneurs out of need, but do you think now you do it more out of habit than out of need?
That's a great question. Now, for me, it's not out of habit, but out of need. I think
she just asked you if you're a bunch of tightwads. I think that's
yeah. So it's just like I think it's only in the beginning now. I think it's only starting now to see more part of the Guerilla that we do, what kind of we were doing. So all these years it was more around to figure out exactly where we fit in and what we need to use so to work for us. As kind of growing, kind of have a structure, seeing things better, and we kind of clear now in terms of what angle that we want to do it. And the interest and the habit is kind of looking at how do we look at what is happening and grow from that.
Go back to just saying, I know I'm this way, and I think a lot of people are. Maybe it's just a human thing that we all think differently in the presence of abundance than we do in scarcity. We just do. We react differently. We think differently. We make different trade-offs and decisions, and sometimes we just make stupid decisions and waste stuff. So, like I said, the times that I hope it's become a modus operandi for me. I mean, I know when I talk to people who want to start a business or have an idea, you want to make sure they have the right resources to do that. But if they are essentially asking you to put them in a position of abundance in a certain way, I say no. Right? There's got to be there is clearly a birthing process that has to occur, and it will include a lot of scarcity and a lot of stretching in ways. And so, I mean, investors use it as part of the vetting process. In fact, I mean, we want to see that. Every time I've pitched for money, I mean, I know that the person on the other end of the deal, they want to know that this isn't going to create a situation of abundance to the detriment of the objective.
I think you do a lot more in the beginning than you do later on if you get to where you're trying to get to. I still believe in everything we do as far as marketing, giving away, and promotions. You get free radio, you get free TV, channel stations in our store all the time. Staying open for the news, for the snowstorm last year, the only ones open. I think you still milk that as much as you can, but some of that little stuff that's more annoying than promotionally oriented, you start chopping off a little bit, like, yeah, that was crazy, I can't believe we did that last year. That Gay Pride Week, well, that worked out great. I'm kidding, I'm only kidding. I watch Tosh 1.0 now, I think it's okay to say something. But you try to eliminate stuff that you realize that didn't work, and you don't mess with little stuff. But I think overall, you keep that same thought. Yeah, that worked for me that last time, it's gonna work for me again.
I like the story about trade shows, because if I have in aggregate, one category of monies that I've spent poorly over the scope of my career, it's been the amount of money I've spent on trade shows. And all the crazy ways we've tried to turn them into some sort of a productive venue. And some of them worked and some of them didn't. But I think, after a while you just realize there are a lot of things you don't have to be successful.
I think the scale changes. So when you only have, like Paul said, when you only have a couple of employees, $500 is a lot. Like you sweat $20. Like, why are we buying paper towels at Walmart? Can you get them at Sam's? I mean, you start sweating that stuff. And then time goes by and your revenue increases, and you stop sweating the little stuff because hopefully you've already set that in motion, and your tolerance for spending changes because you just start playing at different levels as your company grows.
One last question.
How do you go about coming up with your various guerrilla tactics? Do you have you sit down and draw them out, or do you just wait for the aha moment, or what do you do when coming up with these?
Heavy alcohol
I
consumption?
bought a magic 8-ball. Just shake it, and it tells you, I'm naked today. Great, that'll work. I mean, there's no real, it's what do you do when you want to eat, and you're the one who has the peanut butter, and your neighbor has the jelly, and your buddy has the bread. You just kind of work it out, right? You want to all eat, and you just kind of have to work it out. Or you have a great friend that's a baker, and you got all kinds of cool stuff, which is still working it out, right? Trade it off. So I don't think there's like a magic 8-ball or a crystal ball or a textbook that has certain tactics. I think it's really, what are you trying to achieve, right? If I want to figure out, I want to spend 80 grand for a trade show, right? I mean, that's a considerable amount of cash. And I need to make that money back, quick. Cool, let's play the game. How do we get that money back? That's a risk I'm willing to invest in because we did great by doing it. Do I go to trade shows anymore? That was the last year because we'd walk around and people go, love your stuff, man, love your stuff. I have a customer, love your stuff. And I looked around, I'm like, this is not our crowd anymore. These guys all buy from us. Why are we still here? Got to go someplace where they don't know us. So.
For me, it's not been an analytical process, although there might have been a few moments where I was, where desperation and determination met, and I did ponder it, but I think I like the way Mike describes it. It's a mindset that, when you're desperate enough and determined enough, you'll figure it out.
Sometimes they come to you, you're like, oh my God, it's great. Sometimes, they'll fall in your lap. Sometimes you think, we have meetings once a month, and we sit and say, what's the next promotion? At the bagel shop one day, there was this girl out there that we knew, and she was in the drive-thru, so I just ran out there and just kidding around, took the Windex and wiped all the windows. Well, then the next car came up, I'm like, well, I don't want to make her feel bad. So I'm like, it's a great promotion? Customer appreciation day. So when our anniversary rolls around, we're going to wash every car in the drive-thru Saturday morning. And I'm thinking, that's just it doesn't cost us anything, a couple of people, and we're going to do it. In 2 weeks, we're going to put Santa on the street, waving at everyone coming through the drive-thru. You know what? It's perfect guerrilla tactics. It comes to you sometimes, or it evolves, or you say, let's come up with an idea. So.
And is that dude still living in the house behind the...
I actually checked like 3 years ago, and no, he's not. He's not.
All right, so what did we learn tonight, team?
My name is Sarah Smith, and I'm doing Guerilla Rani, and some things that he taught us tonight were to look for opportunities, the win-win situations,
that can benefit both sides of the equation. Some examples are talking to the radio show where he's able to talk about his company, and he's able to benefit the radio place by giving the computers and teaching them how to use them. The same thing applies for the school van that takes the children to school, and he's got his logo on the side of the van there, and then gives computers to the schools so they can use them. And then also the house that is next to the road where you can advertise there as well. You can use the community for opportunity and support. You never underestimate the power of the community. Barter. Think and plan beyond long term. How creative and innovative can you be to use the least amount of resources for a solution to a situation? Get ideas from younger employees. They always have a different way of thinking, especially since they're from a different generation. Get ideas, see what is working in your business in terms of trust. And lastly, assess your locations carefully to achieve the most beneficial outcome for your business. And then next I have Paul Sorrentino. Don't hear no, think how else you can do it. Go for your idea, you have nothing to lose. Bang it out, go with it. Take on partners. Take advice.
I did not say bang it out.
Take advice from people who have done it and respect them. Use leverage. Pick people you trust, hard workers like you. Make sure your vision is clear to everyone. Create contracts with all your partners due to confrontation. You can't do it all yourself, and everyone is a food critic in the food. Excuse me. Everyone is a critic in the food industry. And then lastly, your employees should be comfortable, and you had said that your guerrilla skills and your thinking, they either come to you or evolve throughout your opportunities.
Hi there, I'm Martin Brady. First, I'll start with Mr. Patel. Start communications with decision makers. Write your contracts down. That was also something that Mr. Sorrentino kind of said as well. Go in with everything you have. Go pick fights. Promote your product. Have a polar opposite, or just basically make yourself out there. Just get your name out there. Have an emotional appeal to the company itself. Do more with less. If you want to make more money, you have to spend less. Sponsorships are key. Use the little tactics. Start playing with different levels of your company as it grows. Next would be Mr. Tubner. I like his sphincter effect and his slideshow there. Create leverage in a different domain. Basically, entrepreneurship is an odd blend of determination and desperation where these two meet. Ask yourself if it's a risk that you can kind of afford to take. Everyone makes stupid decisions. That's the truth. Don't fly too close to the credibility flame. Don't tarnish your credibility with your customers. Manage with different people. Don't overthink it. Start it from need. Promote security among the brand. People, price, product, and process. Think differently when you're in abundance and scarcity. He himself actually said he works better with scarcity. I'm going to have to say I do the same. There are a lot of things that you don't have to be successful. That was my favorite quote. So if you join me in thanking them for coming.